What's going on, everyone? In this video, we are looking at the NFL Monday Night Showdown picks between the Vikings and the Bears. Pretty interesting Sunday with a lot of the chalk did end up busting. Well, a lot of the major chalk in Mike Davis and Duke Johnson. And, for the first couple hours of football, that was really rough with the lack of scoring. Picked up somewhat in the second games, in the later afternoon games, but overall still a pretty low scoring slate. So, hopefully, you guys did well. Looking to make some money on this Monday Night Showdown because did not have the best Sunday. But let's get into it. So, as always, appreciate if you guys hit the like button down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. Have some things to talk about. Some injury news. Allen Robinson is questionable. Going to be a game time decision for the Bears tonight. David Montgomery's already been ruled out for this contest. And on the Vikings side, they're missing their tight end Irv Smith, who caught 2 touchdowns last week. He's out. And that's pretty much it, I think. So, and maybe the tight end is questionable, the backup tight end. So, do what I always do, just kind of touch on the plays, and we'll look at some lineup builds for both sites. So, starting off here at captain, you have, or in the flex, you have Dalvin Cook, been the best running back in football this season. He has 13.6 price tag in the flex, over 20,000 in the captain spot. He has almost 100 DraftKings points combined in his last 2 games, which is just unheard of. Total of 6 touchdowns the last 2 games. He has just been doing everything for this team the last couple weeks. He has been getting almost like 25 to 30 touches a game. They have just been feeding him the rock. In this matchup, it's definitely tougher than he's had the last couple weeks against the Bears defense on the road. But I think he can still have some success here, and I think he's still going to be a lot of people's favorite plays at captain. So definitely like Dalvin Cook. Allen Robinson is going to be a game time decision, so we'll have to wait and see on this. Only has 3 touchdown receptions on the season. Foles has targeted him quite a bit, but it's just been that offense has just been not able to move the football much this season. If he ends up going, I think you can definitely consider him just because the matchup is solid against the Vikings defense. They give up a ton of points. They're really bad against the pass and against the ground, so could see Allen Robinson be a pretty big factor tonight if he ends up suiting up. Cousins, definitely, he's always a okay play on these types of showdown slates. He sometimes has decent games. Sometimes he just gives the ball to Dalvin Cook, and Cook goes off. Against the Bears, I think you can play him if you wanted to. If you have some savings, both quarterbacks, none of them really are that different from each other. Both kind of just are game managers. Foles has been not great this season, but that's mainly because his offensive line has been so bad that he just doesn't have a lot of time to throw. But with no David Montgomery tonight, he could see him throw a little bit more, and the matchup is better for him. So I think I like Foles a little bit more. Hopefully Robinson plays, because if he doesn't, then it's going to be a little bit tougher for Foles. But I think Foles looks good at 9,800. Then you have Adam Thielen, who has been pretty quiet the last couple weeks. He hasn't been able to really get a ton of targets and really get into the end zone because Dalvin Cook has just been getting every single touchdown. But he still has 7 touchdown receptions on the season. A lot of that has come earlier this year. But if they end up having to throw a lot in this game, it's going to be two guys, really. If you look at the snap counts, really, the Vikings just throw the football to 2 guys in wide receiver sets. They run like 2 guys in Thielen and Jefferson. They run a lot of 2 and 3 tight end sets, so they can run the football a lot. So I think Thielen is going to be always. I like playing Thielen on main slates. On the showdown slate, he's expensive. I think you could go to the quarterbacks over him, but he's going to be up in play, to say the least. I like Thielen more than Jefferson, although Jefferson always has that big-time upside. He's been really hit or miss this season, a couple of monster games and then a lot of games in the single digits, so I definitely prefer Thielen. I think he's more consistent. If they end up throwing the ball quite a bit tonight, I think Thielen has a better chance of having a better game than Jefferson. Graham would be somewhat interesting, I guess, if Cole Kemp is questionable. If he ends up missing, not a big factor, but will just be more snaps for Jimmy Graham, so he could be somewhat interesting. Mooney would be the number 1 guy if Robinson ends up missing tonight, so gonna have to wait and see. If Robinson is in, then I kind of prefer not going to Mooney and going a little bit cheaper to like Miller. Anthony Miller's only 4,800. Patterson is going to be one of the favorite plays on the Bears because he's probably going to be the number one guy in the backfield. So without Montgomery, he's probably going to be the second option. They really don't have a backup running back that they've given a lot of snaps to. They have Ryan Nall, who came in last week and got some third down work and ended up catching a receiving touchdown. But I think Cordell Patterson is going to be the guy that they go to on the ground. And then you got some below 4K. I think you could look at Cairo Santos, the kicker. I like Rudolph more tonight because of Irv Smith missing. So he'll get some more looks, maybe in the red zone. Hopefully he can catch some touchdowns or a touchdown that maybe would have went to like Irv Smith, who last week got 2 short touchdowns inside the 10. But those were his first touchdowns of the season. But he's been getting some good targets this year. But I think Rudolph will definitely benefit tonight. Ridley is going to be the third wide receiver if Robinson misses. If he does end up playing, then he's not going to be that interesting, but could play him because this slate has like no value right now. And I'm not really interested in playing either defense. I think it's just going to be kind of a medium to lower scoring game, but I don't think the defenses will be that involved. I could see maybe considering the Bears defense just because Cousins sometimes is erratic, but overall, like the Vikings defense is really bad, and don't think they'll get a ton of fantasy points, even if they do end up limiting the Bears to like 25-ish points or like below 30 points. And I don't see myself going below $1,000. There's nobody that really gets a lot of playing time here. Abdullah had a touchdown last week, but that was on his like one or very few snaps that he played. It's not really a factor, just kind of hoping and praying there. So looking at some potential builds here, we have rolling with Dalvin Cook at captain. I think will be a strategy that a lot of people try to implement tonight. I think I will definitely try to do that. So go with Dalvin Cook here. I like Foles a bit. Compare Foles with either one of his wide receivers. Well, you would want to pair him with Robinson, but he's questionable. If he ends up missing or limited, then you could see Miller be a bigger play tonight or a bigger factor. He's been getting a lot more targets the last couple weeks, 8 targets and 11 targets because they've had to throw the football a lot more. And without their running back tonight, they could have to throw a little bit more too. So 3 guys that I like on the Bears are Foles, Miller, and Patterson, especially Miller and Patterson just because they're super cheap. You have $4,900 left. You could consider playing Rudolph just because no Irv Smith's going to get a few more snaps, maybe a few more targets and a few more looks. And then $6,400 left, so you're kind of just not really getting to anybody that you want to get to. So we'll see what we can kind of do here. Maybe we can try to get up to, well, the guy that you might want to get up to is like Jimmy Graham, maybe. If Robinson ends up missing, could see Graham be a bit bigger piece in that offense. So if you wanted to play Graham, you could do that and then go down from Miller to one of the kickers like Santos or Bailey. Probably like to get a couple more Vikings in there, so we'll see if we go Dalvin Cook at captain. If Robinson does end up missing, then I think Ridley would be the guy that you want to play. Got a couple of targets last week, and he did play a decent amount of the snaps. Not a decent amount, but if Robinson ends up missing, he's really going to get a lot of that third wide receiver work. So could play him at only 1,400, and because he's definitely, even if Robinson's in, he'll play a few snaps. He play like 16, not a lot, but if Patterson going into the running back, you get a couple more fourth wide receiver duties, and if he misses, then he'll be the third wide receiver. So you could play him just because there's not a lot of value on the slate. Then he could play Foles, possibly get up to even like Eland, and then he can play Miller and maybe like Santos. So still, you're kind of focusing a little bit more on the Bears side, but at least you get the 2 main pieces in the Vikings offense with Cook and Thielen. Like, they can just steal the show. If you wanted to, instead of playing Santos and going with balanced lineup, going with a 3-3 balance, you could play Rudolph here. So just some food for thought. It's really going to come down to Robinson's availability. That's going to be pretty important tonight. But that's kind of it for the DraftKings side. I think the main guys that I will probably have are Cook. I like Foles tonight, and probably try to get to, like, I think Rudolph will be a decent value play at 3,400 without Irv Smith. So that's it for the DraftKings side. Let's go over to Fanduel. Okay, so on Fanduel, they have the Vikings priced up. Here, Cook is 17.5. Then Cousins and Thielen are your second and third most expensive players. You have Foles in there at 13.5. I think it's one of the better spots that Foles has had is just the offensive line. Hopefully they can protect him here against a pretty poor Vikings defense. Robinson, if he's in, he's going to be a factor. He's been played pretty good against the Vikings last season, and definitely they don't have anybody to slow him down. Definitely not interested in playing Ryan Nall at 10,000. That seems somewhat expensive. I'd rather go to Patterson at 8K. Miller is just 7K. Those guys look a little bit better for the volume that they'll get. Rudolph is just 6K. So FanDuel, you got a lot of ways to go after you plug in like the main guys, and like Cook can probably get up to Foles, Thielen, or maybe if you want to play both quarterbacks, you could do that on FanDuel with Cousins and Foles. And then a little bit under 7,500 left per player. So could be a spot where you play Rudolph, and then you could play Cordero Patterson and leave $500 on the table just to be somewhat unique. So could do something like this, I guess. If you wanted to be even more unique, leave more money on the table, you could play Thielen instead, or go to really just stack up the Viking side. So definitely a lot of ways to go on FanDuel, but with the pricing, I'm definitely going to be considering Dalvin Cook. Probably play Cousins just because he's only 14.5, and then I'll definitely like Patterson. So that's kind of it for this one. Not a lot to talk about. Neither one of these offenses have like a lot of players that have a potential to go off. Both teams kind of know exactly where the production is going to come from. So not super interesting, but have a lot of money on the line tonight. So hopefully, hopefully things work out. So that's it for the video. Thanks for watching, and best of luck.